After the breakup, my ex-girlfriend became a top-tier celebrity. I secretly went to her concert. And as a result, I was discovered. She thought I regretted everything. Sarcastically, she sneered at me. That night, I attempted suicide. I never expected the camera at the concert to pan towards me. When my face was projected onto the big screen, Liu Ryan's voice noticeably faltered for a moment. After the concert ended, I received a text message on my phone. It said, "How come? Do you regret it now?" I stared at that familiar number, frozen for quite a while. In the end, I didn't respond. I just put the phone back into my coat pocket. The message notification chimed twice more in quick succession. "Didn't you say you'd never settle for someone like me in this lifetime? It's too late for Jibota to regret now. Now it's me who can't stand someone as vain as you." I still didn't reply. A long time passed. Then my phone chimed again. It was a message from Liu Ryan. "Stop spying on my life as a fan. I hadn't booked a hotel." From Liu Ryan's concert, I switched between various modes of transportation. To make my way home, it took exactly 9 hours and 13 minutes. So after 9 hours and 13 minutes, Liu Ryan received my text. "Liu Ryan, may you have a bright future." After sending the message successfully, I swallowed a mix of colorful pills with cake, letting them settle into my stomach. I didn't succeed in my suicide attempt. A neighbor who noticed the commotion next door saved me, and I was rushed to the hospital. I hadn't set up any emergency contacts, and there wasn't a single person to be found in my phone's contacts list. Numbers like mom and dad were nowhere to be found in my contacts. In their helplessness, the hospital had no choice but to call the last person I had contacted, Liu Ryan. When I woke up, Liu Ryan was sitting right beside me. She was still wearing the same outfit from the concert, and her makeup hadn't been wiped off yet. Her dazzling appearance clashed sharply with the dreary hospital room. When she saw me open my eyes, Liu Ryan spoke up. "You're awake." I asked, "Why are you here?" Liu Ryan crossed her arms, her face wearing a knowing expression. "Stop pretending, Jibota. Wasn't it you who told the hospital to call me?" I lowered my gaze. "I didn't." She uncrossed her legs, leaning in closer as she said, "Out of all the family, relatives, and friends you could have contacted, Jibota, tell me, why did the hospital choose to call? Your ex-girlfriend from 3 years ago? Faking a suicide attempt is so low, isn't it? Even if you regretted everything after seeing my success, at least pick a more dignified way to win me back. Maybe then I'd spare you another glance. But this only makes me despise you even more." Every word from Liu Ryan hammered into my ears, and I felt my heart twist in pain. I couldn't even muster a single word of defense. She stood up from her chair, looking down at me with an air of superiority. As I lay pale from the stomach pumping, her thin lips moved, parting to speak. "Next time, choose a quicker way to die. Sleeping pills, they're only good for scaring people. You can't really die from them." With that, Liu Ryan turned and left, as if she couldn't bear to look at me anymore. Half of my face was buried in the pillow. And finally, I muttered a defense for myself. They weren't sleeping pills. What kind of pills then? I didn't even know myself. All I knew was that sleeping pills were hard to buy. Even if I did get some, the dosage wouldn't have been enough to be lethal. So I just picked up the cheapest ones, buying a random assortment. On my way home from the concert, for the first time in over 20 years, I treated myself to a fancy little cake. The pills were too bitter. I needed something sweet to counter it. But it was late when I got back that night, and the dessert shop only had one last chocolate flavor left. It wasn't sweet at all. In my not-so-long life, I realized I hadn't tasted a bit of sweetness by the end. Liu Ryan was photographed at the hospital last night. I became her rumored boyfriend because it was at a hospital, and I was photographed undergoing a stomach pump. Some people even said they'd seen me at the concert. Online speculation mixed with false rumors from anti-fans, and the story spiraled out of control. Some claimed Liu Ryan had slept with a fan and didn't take responsibility, driving the man to despair and a suicide attempt. Overnight, Liu Ryan went from being the nation's girlfriend, a man's eternal moonlight, to being condemned as a heartless woman. She lost countless fans. I stared at the trending topics that just wouldn't leave the top of the list. I took out my phone and dialed Liu Ryan. The phone rang for a long time before it was picked up. What is it? Liu Ryan's voice was a bit hoarse. She probably hadn't slept all night because of this mess. I clenched my phone tightly. This is my fault. What do I need to do to clear things up? I'll cooperate with whatever you need. On the other end, Liu Ryan let out a small laugh. She didn't answer my question. Instead, she asked, Jiboda, did you call me? Just because you feel guilty for causing me trouble? Why else? What other reason could there be? Because I was worried about her? Because I was afraid that after 3 years, her career and future would once again be dragged down by me? I couldn't bring myself to say it. After a long silence, Liu Ryan finally sighed. Things were never as simple as you think. Wait for my team's instructions. But Jiboda, remember, you're the one who said this. This whole thing started because of you. So no matter what, you have to cooperate. No matter what? I asked Liu Ryan on the other end. I hesitated for a long time, then muttered, never mind, it's nothing. Keep in touch. Send me a message every half hour. Otherwise, what if you run away and leave me to deal with all this? Who would I cry to then? I won't run. And I won't leave you to face this alone. I won't abandon you. I set an alarm, sending Liu Ryan a message every half hour. Sometimes it was just a random picture I snapped. Sometimes it was just a punctuation mark. But most of the time, I asked how things were going. Liu Ryan never replied to me. It was only after I kept asking him repeatedly how things were going that I received a warning. If you ask the same question again, you might as well call me on video every half hour. I had no choice, so I dutifully scrambled to find new topics to send him. Sometimes, when I hit on something that caught Liu Ryan's interest, he would graciously reply with a few sentences. I knew Liu Ryan wasn't doing this because he was afraid I'd run away, but because he was scared I'd attempt suicide again. He couldn't stay by my side, so he used this clumsy method to keep an eye on me. When I closed my eyes, the auditory hallucinations got worse. The noise in my ears was chaotic. My head felt like it was going to explode. But Liu Ryan, I've tried so hard to eat something, only to throw it all back up. I've tried many ways, but I just can't seem to get a good night's sleep. I'm always left feeling panicked, fearful, and sad. Liu Ryan, the thoughts of missing you, the guilt, the hope, they can't sustain me anymore. It's too painful. Every second, every minute is filled with unbearable pain. Even eating candy doesn't help. Liu Ryan's manager came to see me. He's gained weight since 3 years ago, and the beer belly is quite noticeable. I heard he got married and has a lovely daughter now, Jiboda. Shenting put down his bulging bag and, familiar as always, sat down in front of me. Why do you always have the knack for causing such huge trouble? I handed him a bottle of water, and he chuckled self-deprecatingly. Maybe it's just some kind of innate talent, I joked. Shenting ignored my joke, and without a word, dumped a pile of cash from the bag onto the table. This situation is a bit complicated. After all, you attended Liu Ryan's concert right before your suicide attempt, and when the hospital contacted someone after your incident, they called Liu Ryan directly. So simply clarifying that you and Liu Ryan are just friends won't convince the fans and the public. In fact, it might only make them turn against Liu Ryan even more, claiming she's avoiding responsibility. In that case, things would just get worse. I glanced at the stack of cash on the table and asked, "So, how do you plan to resolve this?" Chen Ting leaned forward, his hands folded together. "Now that people have dug up your past relationship, the only way to protect Liu Ryan's reputation is to say that after your amicable breakup, you were bitter, and that your suicide attempt was a form of emotional blackmail. Liu Ryan showed up at the hospital, only to save your life." Chen Ting paused, then continued, "But don't worry. I'm a businessman. I know everything comes with a price. So tell me, how much do you want? If this isn't enough, I can go back and get more." Boda, he suddenly called me by name. "You nearly ruined Liu Ryan 3 years ago. She endured a lot to get to where she is today. She really shouldn't have to be destroyed by you a second time." Chen Ting left, leaving behind a huge bag of money enough to last me a long time. And I agreed. She cooperated with the clarification, telling everyone that it was my bitterness and my emotional blackmail with the suicide attempt. Even though the moment the statement was released, fans started cursing, I didn't feel particularly wrong. After all, this whole thing really did start because of me. Liu Ryan was innocently dragged into it by me. Besides, I was helping myself too. Because if I clarified and then committed suicide again, if I survived, it would be fine. But if I die, everyone would surely blame Liu Ryan again. So for now, I couldn't die. Even if it's just for her, I still need to hang on a little longer. I looked at the photo of me and Liu Ryan tucked behind my phone. I smiled. Had I finally found a reason to keep living? Liu Ryan and I broke up peacefully at the time. Or at least, that's how I saw it. But Liu Ryan always insisted that I dumped her. I didn't like that phrasing, as if even a breakup had to have winners and losers. In my heart, she was always someone special, someone valuable in any relationship, never someone lesser. At the time, I simply thought we weren't right for each other. So I told her, "Liu Ryan, let's not date anymore." What did Liu Ryan say back then? On the phone, she said, "Boda, if you don't want me to talk about a topic, you should say let's not talk about that. Let's not date." How is it that you, someone who studied journalism, are worse at language than I am? I was silent for a moment. "Liu Ryan, what I meant was, let's not be in a relationship anymore." "Do you mean to get married?" "Well, okay, but you haven't proposed yet. And I haven't picked out a beautiful ring for myself." "Liu Ryan, you know what I meant. Let's break up. Let's not contact each other anymore." Everyone thought I was being dramatic, saying I dumped the perfect goddess, Liu Ryan, as if I had no choice but to break up with her. What was this? A scene from a romance drama? The forced separation trope. She runs, I chase. When we were together, Liu Ryan was already making a name for herself as a newcomer in the entertainment industry. With her outstanding singing and dancing skills and her stunning looks, her popularity was rising fast. Her future looked incredibly bright. But she was almost dragged down by me. My father got into trouble. My mother didn't want to deal with him. So she dumped all the mess on me and went off to live recklessly. I hardly saw her anymore. Till one day, a man showed up at my door. He said my mother had stolen his money and demanded we pay it back. I didn't know if what he said was true, and the amount he was asking for was no small sum. I was still studying, taking care of my father, and the money I earned from my part-time jobs barely covered our daily expenses. Even if it was true, I couldn't pay him back. One time, he came back drunk and caused trouble again, and Liu Ryan saw it. Liu Ryan, being impulsive, only wanted to protect me at that moment. She grabbed an empty wine bottle and smashed it over the man's head. Liu Ryan's parents were well-known business people in the community, and she herself was frequently on TV and the internet. That man, he recognized Liu Ryan and decided to target her. The very next morning, news broke. Liu Ryan and her boyfriend used power to bully others, refusing to pay their debts. Liu Ryan aids in wrongdoing. Involved in a violent altercation, the story spread rapidly across the internet. It was during a crucial phase in her rising career, and I caused her a lot of trouble. A very big mess. Liu Ryan's side had to throw a lot of money at the issue, just to somewhat suppress the scandal. Afterward, Liu Ryan's manager, Chen Ting, came to see me. He told me, my mother never owed that man any money. The man was maliciously blackmailing us for money, but they had no proof. To clear everything up, my mother herself would have to come forward and personally admit that she had no debt to that man. Chen Ting looked up at me. There's something I hope you understand. If you and Liu Ryan weren't in a relationship, then in this situation, she would have simply been an innocent bystander who stepped in to help someone being bullied out of kindness. How could I not understand Chen Ting's words? Liu Ryan had a bright future ahead of her, and that future was nearly ruined because of me. So that night, I told Liu Ryan, let's stop this. After we broke up, I went to find my mother to ask her to clear up the situation, but instead she scolded me harshly, saying, why didn't you tell her you found such a rich girlfriend? Why didn't you ask her for help? And yet you stood by and watched her live in poverty every day. My mother sneered. It was then that I realized she had known all along about everything the man did. In fact, it was my mother who had come up with the plan to expose and manipulate public opinion, all to extort money from Liu Ryan. If you want to clear things up, fine. Aren't you two together? Go tell that Liu girl to hand over 10 million yuan, 5 million for clearing the debt, and another 5 million as compensation for raising you all these years. I gave her my son, and she's so rich. What's wrong with giving me some child support? After my mother kicked me out that night, I walked alone towards home. The deep autumn night was bitterly cold, so I was trembling all over. 10 million? After almost ruining Liu Ryan's career, how could I shamelessly ask her for 10 million? That night, Liu Ryan booked a flight back immediately. When she arrived, I was at the hospital sitting by my father's bedside. Liu Ryan found me there, gazing sadly at my father, who had been in a coma for 3 years. And like an idiot, I asked, is this because of my mother? Did she pull that I'll give you 5 million if you leave my daughter stunt? I forced a laugh. Her dad must watch too many soap operas. I didn't blame him. Liu Ryan, you can see it now. We don't belong in the same world. Being in a relationship with someone like you, it's just too exhausting for me. I always have to be so careful. I was afraid of anyone finding out about our relationship, afraid it might have a negative impact on you. I couldn't even contact you often, because it would affect your work. I had to work desperately hard, desperately trying to get you, because only then would people not think I was just aiming to high, or that I didn't deserve you. Only then would they stop whispering behind my back, saying, G. Boda is just a freeloading pretty boy. It's too exhausting, Liu Ryan. Do you know that? Every day it's too exhausting. I don't want to live this kind of life anymore. I just want a simple, peaceful life. So, Liu Ryan, you understand, don't you? You can't give up your career, your dreams. Even if you did, you'd still be that wealthy second-generation rich kid who's so different from me. The simplicity I want is something we can never achieve together. I don't want to drag you out of your great life and make you live a hard one with me. Shine in your own light. Don't come to my world. In the hospital room, Liu Ryan lowered her head. Silent for a long time, I clutched the edge of the hospital bed blanket, struggling to hold back my tears. It took everything I had not to let them fall. I don't know how much time passed before Liu Ryan finally spoke. But I am G. Boda. This isn't a relationship that only you are a part of. Breaking up is something for two people to decide. I don't agree. All the things you said. I might need some time to give you a proper response. But we have to try to solve everything, don't we? You can't just think up on me when problems arise. It's not fair to me. What happened later that day? I can't quite remember. Recently, my memory has been deteriorating a lot. Everything feels hazy and muddled in my mind. I probably said a lot of harsh things. I remember saying, Liu Ryan, besides the advantages your parents gave you, what else do you have? People like us living at the bottom. No matter how hard we fight, we can't make it. But you were born with things we could never attain, even if we struggled our whole lives. I said, Liu Ryan, the kind of people G. Boder, look down on the most in this life are you second-generation rich kids, hiding behind your parents like parasites. The last clear memory I have of Liu Ryan is of her slamming the door as she left. From that day forward, for the next 3 years, I never saw her again. After Liu Ryan left, I issued a public clarification. I told everyone that Liu Ryan and I were just friends. Whether I owed someone money or not had nothing to do with Liu Ryan. She was just a bystander who stepped in to help out of kindness. After that statement was released, the situation finally calmed down, but my mother and that man didn't get what they wanted, so they kept coming to cause trouble for me every few days. I had no strength to deal with it, but I had no choice. After all, I couldn't leave my father lying in that hospital bed. Those 3 years were very hard on me. Life was very difficult. Just surviving and trying to find happiness was a struggle. Even just eating a proper meal or getting a good night's sleep became incredibly difficult for me. I felt like I was getting sick. There was this vague sense of it. But I never had the courage to go to the hospital. I remembered that my father needed me, so I couldn't afford to fall apart. Half a month ago, after 4 years in the hospital bed, my father slowly took his last breath. I handled all his funeral arrangements. Then, with nothing but a small amount of luggage, I finally left that city. I went to see a doctor. The doctor told me my condition was already quite severe, and that I needed medication to intervene. If it didn't work, I might have to undergo electroconvulsive therapy. I didn't take the medicine, nor did I undergo any treatment. I had lost all will to survive. I only wanted to see Liu Ryan one last time before I died. I withdrew all the money I had saved over the years and bought a ticket to Liu Ryan's concert from a scalper. I even went to the mall and bought an expensive but very nice outfit. I did my best to make myself look presentable, just so I could say a final goodbye to the only person I've ever loved. I just wanted to see her from afar, but I never expected the camera to catch me. And so, after 3 years, I once again caused trouble for Liu Ryan. After I issued a clarification statement, the online hate flooded in. But I didn't care anymore. A long time ago, I stopped caring. I quit my job. I locked myself in my apartment, living day by day on takeout and sleeping pills. But in reality, I couldn't eat much. I had no appetite even forcing myself to drink some porridge. I would quickly vomit it back up. Still, I stubbornly set 3 alarms, making sure I ate on time every day. I needed to live a little longer. Otherwise, the backlash would turn its focus on Liu Ryan. Just 100 days, I thought. I gave myself a deadline. The debt Liu Ryan owed me, I'd repay with these 100 days of my life. When Liu Ryan came to see me, fully disguised, I was sitting alone on the sofa, staring into space. The apartment was eerily quiet. The rhythmic knocks on the door felt like a lifeline, pulling me out of the depths of my loneliness. G. Boda, why did you say those things? I smiled at Liu Ryan and reached out to open all the drawers of the coffee table. Inside were neat stacks of cash. The scene looked like some kind of dark transaction. It felt as if the next second, a voice in my earpiece would order the bust. Liu Ryan stood there, stunned. What's the meaning of this? I shrug. As you can see, I'm just doing my job. Taking money to solve someone else's problem. Liu Ryan's face turned pale, And for a long time, she didn't say a word. Just then, my alarm went off, and timely as ever. It was time for dinner. I turned off the alarm. I lifted my gaze to look at the face in front of me, now unmasked, still beautiful even without makeup. Suddenly, I spoke. Ryan, have you eaten yet? If not, how about having dinner together? Liu Ryan abruptly stood up, her face clearly filled with anger. Jiboda, what do you take me for? I didn't lift my head, just pursed my lips and thought for a moment. For a dinner partner, I guess. Liu Ryan, in the end, didn't leave. She sat down, her face still cold. Her anger was like punching a pillow. It had no effect on me. I didn't argue back. She said her piece, and I said mine. Liu Ryan, frustrated, paced circles around the living room. When she got tired of pacing, she started nitpicking. Why'd you put so much chili in this? You did that on purpose, didn't you? Don't you know I need to protect my voice? From the kitchen, I called back. I only added a little for seasoning. You put so much water in the rice. Are you making porridge? Is it too much? I don't think so. Whatever, just think of it as a surprise box. It's exciting that way, right? Why is this plate so cheap looking? It came free with some yogurt. And why did you peel the apple so thick? Bought it on sale. And why is there a chip missing from this bowl? It fell, but only a tiny piece broke off. I named it Surviving Against the Odds. And that apron's design is so childish. What taste? That's a chibi version of a certain celebrity with the surname Liu. Liu Ryan fell silent. The soup in the pot gurgled, echoing like someone's heartbeat. After a long time, Liu Ryan finally spoke softly. Jiboda. Her voice was thick with sorrow. Jiboda, why did you try to kill yourself? I lifted my head through the misty steam, meeting Liu Ryan's eyes, which could never hide her emotions. Ryan, buy me a cake. Let's call it an exchange. After I eat the cake, I'll tell you everything, but it has to be sweet, okay? That night, though, we didn't get to sit down and have dinner together, nor did I get to eat the cake Liu Ryan bought. I had thought the online haters were just loud, and that as long as I stayed inside, there wasn't much they could do to me. But I had really underestimated Liu Ryan's fans. That night, after Liu Ryan went out to buy the cake, I was home alone. A rock shattered the window. Then came more rocks, red paint, and rotten vegetables. Since my apartment was on the ground floor, all these things easily made their way through the broken glass, falling right onto me, landing at my feet. Why don't you just go die already, you scum? Weren't you supposed to have committed suicide? Why aren't you dead yet? Still clinging to my idol after the breakup? Don't you have any shame? Being with you was probably the biggest scandal of Liu Ryan's life. Through the broken window, I quietly watched them from where I stood. I saw Liu Ryan running toward me, but she was suddenly stopped by Chen Ting and another person who looked like an assistant. In the struggle, the things in Liu Ryan's hands fell to the ground. It was a bit too far, so I couldn't see clearly. But I knew I wasn't going to get that piece of cake today. The scene outside was chaotic. A security guard arrived, driving the crowd of fans away. Many of the residents came out to watch the commotion. The flash from their phone cameras kept flickering on my face. I turned my back to them, sinking into the shadows behind the sofa. I couldn't hear the noise outside anymore. All I felt was overwhelming exhaustion. For many days after, I didn't see Liu Ryan again. Instead, Chen Ting showed up, along with a massive check. What's this? I gestured toward the check in Chen Ting's hand. No one mentioned there'd be a final payment, did they? It's not a final payment. Chen Ting said, I hope you take this money and go live somewhere else. Jiboda, and please stop contacting Liu Ryan. I don't know if it was just my imagination, but I thought I heard a trace of pleading in Chen Ting's voice. I paused for a moment, tapping my fingers on the check, then smiled softly. All right, I agree. But I also made a promise to Liu Ryan. I told her that after eating her cake, I'd share a secret with her. I know you won't let me see her. So could you deliver a note for me? Actually, the truth is, I did get to eat the cake that day, even though it fell to the ground and got all smashed up. And the beautiful design became a messy blur. The packaging wasn't damaged, so I picked it up and ate it. The palm-sized cake was covered in a thick layer of cream, with fresh fruit and jam added on top. I ate the whole thing. That day, surprisingly, I didn't feel nauseous after eating it, which was rare for me. It almost made me wonder if Liu Ryan had secretly added some special remedy. So since I ate her cake, I had to keep my promise. I originally thought about calling her or sending her a message, but Chenting said Liu Ryan wasn't in a stable state of mind right now. He was afraid she might do something impulsive that couldn't be undone. So they were temporarily keeping Liu Ryan under watch, including confiscating her phone and all access to her social media accounts like WeChat and Weibo. That's why I could only use a note. I didn't have an envelope at home, so I spent quite some time digging through a drawer before finding a red packet. As I stuffed the note inside, I couldn't help but laugh. Sending a message by carrier pigeon, I thought, it really did have that romantic drama feel to it. Chenting said he needed to check the contents of the note before giving it to Liu Ryan, just in case I secretly included my contact information or address. I agreed. And right in front of Chenting, I blocked and deleted every way I had to contact Liu Ryan. Only then did Chenting finally feel reassured and leave. I still didn't understand why he was so wary of me. Although, to be fair, I had almost ruined Liu Ryan's life twice. If Liu Ryan hadn't been stopped that night and had rushed out to confront the fans, causing a conflict, that would have been the third time. Alright, I could understand why Chenting, who was always cleaning up the messes caused by Liu Ryan's troubles, would be wary of me, the troublemaker. Chenting's point was clear. My address had already been exposed. Those crazy fans might come after me again. So for my safety, and for the sake of Liu Ryan's career, I should leave the next day. But there I was, dragging a small suitcase, sitting at the airport for a long time, not knowing where to go. Since I couldn't decide, I thought, why not just go home? And so, after only a month of fleeing that city, I found myself back there again, fearing my mother might see the online gossip and come after me once more. I didn't go home. I didn't let anyone know I had returned. With the money Chenting had given me, I rented a place in a decent neighborhood. My daily routine became forcing myself to sleep, forcing myself to eat, forcing myself to go outside for a walk, forcing myself not to die before the 100 days were up. My life became a countdown I had set for myself, with each day passing slowly and painfully. Because of all the talk online, I hadn't been on the internet for a long time. I had no one to reach out to, nothing to care about. Even my phone became just a useless object. One day, out of sheer boredom, I turned on my phone and saw gossip about Liu Ryan's new romantic relationship. The paparazzi caught Liu Ryan having dinner and shopping with a popular young actor. They were even wearing matching outfits. Rumors of their relationship started to surface. That young actor was a newcomer under the same agency as Liu Ryan, and they had a senior-junior relationship. This news quickly went viral on Weibo. It was everywhere. People said that since so much time had passed and Liu Ryan hadn't come forward to deny it, it was basically an unspoken confirmation. I stared at that heavily watermarked photo on my phone for a long time, feeling something indescribable. Was I sad? But I was the one who broke up with her. After all this time, she deserved to have a new relationship. Was I unwilling to accept it? But I had never made any real effort to stay by her side. I couldn't even manage to live for her. So what was there to feel bitter about? The emotions inside me churned like a storm. But in the end, all it brought me was another sleepless night. When the sky began to lighten, I finally dozed off, drifting in and out of strange dreams, each one stranger than the last. I dreamt of the time when Liu Ryan and I were dating. We'd go for late-night walks, wandering the empty streets. We'd lie on park benches, looking up at the stars. The air was filled with the sounds of cicadas and other insects. Suddenly, Liu Ryan asked me, "Jiboda, what do I mean to you?" I thought about it for a moment, then pointed to the sky. "You're like a star." "Why a star?" she asked. "It's not just because I'm a celebrity, right?" "Of course not. Because you shine." I exaggerated the tone, making an overly dramatic gesture with my arms in the air. "You flash in and out of my life, swooshing in one moment and swooshing out the next." When Liu Ryan had just started her career, she was incredibly busy. We had very little time to see each other. But even with her packed schedule, she always found little gaps to come see me. Though every time we met, the time we spent together was always short. Just like this time. By dawn, she had to leave again. There was a hint of sadness in Liu Ryan's eyes. "I'm sorry, Jiboda, once this busy period is over, let's go on a trip. How about we go to Paris?" Back then, we were full of hope for the future. But as Liu Ryan became more famous, as her popularity soared, she got busier and busier. And as for our relationship, we became more and more afraid of others finding out. The trip we promised each other turned into something neither of us had the time or energy to fulfill. "Jiboda, it's dawn. I have to go." Liu Ryan left. She waved goodbye to me, and I watched her walk into the light, toward a young, handsome man. She didn't look back again. I opened my eyes. My pillow was soaked. The days after that passed in a daze. I had completely lost track of time. Each day, I mindlessly and numbly crossed off days. On the 100-day countdown I had set for myself, with only 3 days left in my countdown, Liu Ryan found me. I don't know how. Especially since we hadn't been in contact at all. How did he find me in such a huge city? But the day I saw him, he was a complete mess. The moment Jiboda saw me, Liu Ryan's eyes were red with tears. "Let's go get treatment, okay?" I shook my head. "No, I don't want to. The medicine tastes too bitter. Electroshock therapy hurts too. I don't want to talk to a psychologist. Their words are so boring." A tear fell from Liu Ryan's eyes. Then another. And a third. Instinctively, I wanted to reach out. But after hesitating for a long time, I only pulled a tissue from the table. "I'm sorry, Jiboda. I only realized everything now. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault. How could you know if I never told you? You're not a psychologist." Liu Ryan ignored my joke, wiping her tears and looking at me. "Then let's go on a trip, okay? To Denmark, Nepal, or Malaysia. Wherever you want to go. We'll go together, okay?" I still shook my head. "Ryan, you can't go on a trip with me. It wouldn't be fair to your boyfriend. You shouldn't have come looking for me." "That's not true," Liu Ryan explained. "I don't have a boyfriend." "What?" I asked in confusion. Liu Ryan told me that so-called relationship was just a deal I made with Chen Ting to break my contract with the company and to get your letter back. After I lost contact with you, I suspected it was him interfering. Chen Ting used the breakup letter and the contract termination as bargaining chips. They made me promise to use my popularity to promote their company's new rising star before I left. Liu Ryan terminated her contract with her former agency, paying a huge sum of money. She cleared up all the things that had happened between us. But it was all intertwined and complicated, one thing leading to another. On top of that, the scandal about her relationship with the rising star had left a bad taste in people's mouths. Fans didn't buy it. Many people felt like the entertainment industry was truly messed up, especially when it came to relationships in this industry. When something goes wrong, It always seems like they choose to drag down the reputation of an ordinary person. People started thinking Liu Ryan wasn't a good person either. Let her play her own games. We, as fans, won't support her anymore. Liu Ryan had sacrificed her career just to clear my name. But I knew nothing of this. Or perhaps I just no longer cared after all that had happened. I realized Liu Ryan was no longer the reason I could stay alive, but I still couldn't bear to make her sad in my final days. She stubbornly stayed by my side, refusing to leave. So I didn't say anything more. Those 3 days were some of the most unforgettable in my life. They were ordinary, but filled with happiness. We finally had the chance to sit down and finish the dinner we didn't get to eat that night. But this time, I was the one nitpicking. Liu Ryan, this is way too salty. Did you drop the whole salt shaker in the pot? And seriously, who put sesame oil in steamed egg custard? It's supposed to be spicy. I wanted it to burn my throat. You get it, and why does it look so ugly? It looks bad, so it probably tastes bad too. We ate a lot of cake, trying all sorts of flavors. Even Liu Ryan, who kept saying she needed to maintain her figure, ate so much she started questioning her life choices. I laughed loudly without any grace, and we purposely avoided the elevator, climbing all 23 floors by foot just to watch the stars. The winter night wind was incredibly strong. Liu Ryan and I grabbed an old blanket I had forgotten to take down from the rooftop, and the two of us huddled together tightly. We talked about all kinds of things: the neighbor's grandpa's dog, the old lady next door and her flowers, the kid upstairs and his winter holiday homework, and the wigs sold at the local market. Jiboda, do you know what you mean to me? Liu Ryan suddenly asked. What? I followed her gaze to where she was pointing. It was Dawn, I smiled. Why Dawn? Liu Ryan pulled the blanket tighter over her shoulders and continued, because before the day breaks, it's the last thing the stars have. I fell silent for a long time, saying nothing. The wind on the rooftop was still strong, the winter night cold enough to pierce the bone. Liu Ryan and I, wrapped together in the blanket, sat shoulder to shoulder. All I could feel was the slight warmth from where our shoulders touched. Whether it's the stars or the dawn. Look, Liu Ryan, the sun's rising. From here, the story shifts to Liu Ryan's perspective. It took a long time for the chaos from the concert incident to finally settle. I was finally able to successfully terminate my contract with the agency. Chen Ting, at least, kept his word. Before parting ways, Chen Ting gave me Jiboda's letter. On the day we went our separate ways, Chen Ting said, Ryan, there's no real love in the entertainment industry. There's only career paths and fame. You were too emotional. If you hadn't terminated the contract, I would never have let you see this letter for the rest of your life. I didn't know if breaking the contract was the right decision. But during the days I was cut off from almost everything, I felt like there was a hole in my heart. It was an overwhelming feeling of suffocation, pressing down on me so hard I could barely breathe. An inexplicable fear and anxiety made it impossible for me to do anything. Later, I found out. It was because Jiboda was gone. After 3 years, I saw his mother again. She looked older, with a face that even makeup couldn't hide the aging from. A nearly burned out cigarette dangled from her lips. She jerked her chin toward the shadowy corner. His ashes are over there. If you want them, take them. I don't have money to buy him a burial plot anyway. If you'd come any later, I would have dumped them in the Yangtze River. I don't know how I made my way to that damp, cold corner, where cockroaches crawled on the walls. All I knew was that my tears blurred my vision, instantly covering my face. Jiboda, it must be so cold here. Don't worry, I'll take you somewhere warm, where you'll never be cold again. On the first day of November, winter arrived, with heavy snow, covering the world in white. Jiboda had a dream. He dreamed of sitting with the only girl he ever loved, wrapped in a warm blanket, sitting on a rooftop without wind. The girl's shoulder was pressed tightly against his. and it felt so warm. She said, G. Boder, dawn is the last thing the stars have before morning. But you belong in a place with light. You belong to the day. I can't time to cold here. Bonus Chapter 2, a letter inside the red packet. Dear, the next 3 words were manually blacked out. Liu Ryan. I ate the cake that day. It was sweet, much sweeter than the chocolate one I bought before. It was just the taste I liked. Thank you. I know this sounds kind of sentimental, but I really wanted you to know. Let me be selfish just this once. I don't want to disappear from your life without leaving something behind, without a trace. There are some things I've really wanted to tell you. As for the secret I promised to share with you, it's that I'm sick. I seem to have pretty severe depression. The doctor suggested electroconvulsive therapy, which sounds really painful. I'm quite scared of pain, so I've decided not to undergo treatment. Also, I feel like there's something I need to explain to you. That day, I really didn't mean to have the hospital call you. I never thought it would cause you so much trouble. I'm sorry. I keep dragging you down, always making things difficult for you. But it won't happen again. I've given myself a 100-day deadline. For me, that's enough. These 100 days have been really tough, but it's okay. Consider it my way of making it up to you. I can't let you get caught in another whirlwind of public opinion because of me. You don't need to feel any guilt about it. After all, I've caused you so much trouble. The key point is, I really did take Chen Ting's money. I figure all his money came from squeezing you dry anyway. Greedy capitalist. I had to get a bit of it back for you. I didn't even blink when I took it. That sudden feeling of being rich was actually pretty nice. Oh, and Ryan, you looked absolutely stunning at the concert that day. The way you stood on that stage, glowing so brightly. You were the most unique and dazzling thing in the world. Even now, to me. You're still a star. But I lied to you about the whole star thing before. It's not about whether you shine or not. So now, let me give you a real answer. Ryan, stars are the romance I can look up to even when I'm lost in darkness. So the message I sent you that day was sincere. Ryan, please make sure you have a bright future. What else do I want to say? Well, make sure you eat well, sleep well, and don't think about me. Don't worry about losing fans. If you meet someone you like, love them wholeheartedly. Seeing you happy would make me so happy. That's my last wish. I really want to see you live a good life. But every time I appear, I seem to cause you trouble. Alright, I'll stop here. Chen Ting is rushing me again. He's really annoying. I curse that his beer belly grows 3 times bigger. Oh, and most importantly, make sure to eat well. Yours, G. Boda, in my own handwriting. The full text has been completed.